Hello, do you like watching Naruto? And would you like to know who you would be if you got into anime? Then right now subscribe to the channel, like this video, and the last number of your like will indicate who you would be if you got into anime. For example, I would become Itachi, and you? Write in comments.
Chapter 1 Death of Naruto. Is this the end? Am I really going to die here, without realizing my dream of becoming Hokage? Will I die without returning my best friend? Well, at least I managed to avenge the death of my teacher. Thought. Lying on the ground, a guy with blue eyes and yellow, wheat-colored hair. Although now his hair is saturated with someone else's, and his own blood, and acquired other shades, from pale pink to dark scarlet. There was not a single whole place on the young man's body. Numerous deep cuts were visible on his hands, as if from a sword, and blood flowed from the mortal wounds on the chest and stomach, soaking through the clothes. Even the 9 tails inside Naruto were unable to save him. But who could hurt a Jinch? Ricky, a disciple of one of the legendary Sanins, so badly, who could do that? And I'll tell you to whom. These were Akatsuki, whom the young man managed to defeat at the cost of his own life. Naruto came to the mind of the guy. Naruto saw everything around him vaguely. Either just blood flooded his eyes, or forces tried to leave him forever. With such unseeing eyes, the young man looked into the space around him, trying to see at least the shadow of the one who called him by name. Although he failed, Naruto recognized the voice. It belonged to Sakura, his partner. "Naruto, hold on," she said, sitting next to the guy, and trying to heal his wounds, although with horror and despair in her chest she realized that she could not save her friend. "No, Naruto, don't you dare. Do you hear? Don't you dare die. Do not leave me," shouted the kunoichi in a breaking voice, not noticing the tears flowing from her eyes in a waterfall. "Sakura, are you crying? Don't cry. And don't waste your strength. I can't be saved. And forgive me for not fulfilling my promise to bring Sasuke back to the village. Don't say, save your strength. You will live, Naruto. Don't say that you will leave the world before you become Hokage. So hold on, help. Already nothing can be changed. I will die. But when that happens, the 9 tails can break out of me, and to prevent this, you, Sakura, must put the seal of the 5 elements on my Jinch." "Ricky seal? What are you talking about? How can I? And I don't know this technique." Sakura looked at Naruto in bewilderment, trying to understand the essence of what she heard. "Do you remember the Chunin exam? Remember the seals that Orochimaru put together then? And repeat them?" "No, I can't do it," Sakura shouted so loudly that everyone who approached the battle site heard her. When she wanted to say something else, the girl was interrupted by the voice of the teacher, who had just come running to her. "Naruto, how?" Fear and disbelief in what was happening were read in Tsunede's eyes. In the eyes with which she looked at the mutilated, bleeding Naruto lying on the ground. The words stuck in my throat, never finding a way out. "Granny Tsunade, are you here?" The boy's hoarse voice came to her. The words mingled with ragged breathing and bloody coughing, and each word was worth an incredible effort. "For Naruto, please put on the seal that restrains. The Biju, the seal of the 5 elements. To take the 9 tails with you to the Shinigami. Granny, this is my last will." Without another word, Without wasting a second, Tsunade walked over to the barely alive Naruto and sat down next to him. She folded several seals with shaking hands, and applied a fuin of 5 elements. When Tsunade was finishing, she wanted to say something to Naruto, something very important. But it was too late. He didn't breathe. For a long minute Tsunade could not move, and continued to sit by the body of a young guy, lying on the ground, so dear and very recently alive. Realization came along with the bitterness of loss, and hot tears rolled down his pale cheeks. Nearby, behind her, Tsunade heard muffled sobs. She didn't have to turn around to understand that it was Sakura crying, covering her mouth with her palms, so as not to scream at the top of her voice, to the whole area, in order to release the pain out. Tsunade wanted the same, looking away from the lifeless body of the Nine-Tails Jinch. Riki, Tsunade, wiping away her tears, got to her feet, and turned to all the arrivals, who stood behind her, shinobi and ordinary villagers. Everyone was waiting for her words, and she had something to say. Today is the day that Konoha lost many shinobi. But there could have been more victims, and they are not only thanks to this guy. Tsunade barely spoke, which did not prevent everyone from hearing her words. We all, whether ordinary shinobi or reincarnated ones, we all owe him. Therefore, this day will be named the day of the death of the hero of the leaf, the Kyuubi Jinch. Riki, posthumously named the 4th Sannin of Konoha, the son of the 4th Hokage and Uzumaki Kushina, Uzumaki Naruto. A mute surprise, occasionally interrupted by deep sighs, hung in the air. The truth fell on the heads of people with a heavy burden, and each experienced what was said in his own way. With feelings of regret, longing, shame, remorse. After all, the one whom they hated turned out to be the son of a hero, and the hero, who saved them all at the cost of his own life. The next day, a large number of people gathered at the cemetery on the outskirts of the village. From the outside, they resembled a black river, flowing harmoniously in one direction. The dead are being buried today. Now most of the people stood at one tombstone, which was different from the others, and one could read the name on it. Uzumaki Naruto, named posthumously as the 4th Sannin of Konoha, hero of the leaf. Opposite the grave, Naruto's friends and teachers stood in the front rows, civilians behind them. It seems that all the inhabitants of the village gathered in one place, united by one goal, to honor the memory of the hero, and send him on his last journey. Standing in complete silence, everyone thought of Naruto. Someone recalled a funny incident associated with him, his words or smiles. Someone recalled his perseverance and courage, dedication and self-sacrifice. Someone mentally asked for forgiveness for the insults caused to the guy, hoping that the words would fly to heaven, since the guy on earth would no longer hear them. Now, rallied by the weight of loss, friends and comrades on the battlefield supported each other more than ever. Even with his death, Naruto was able to unite people. Crying was heard from different sides. Girls and boys were not ashamed of their feelings. They were in grief. They had lost a friend. Somewhere in the crowd stood a girl with pink hair. Tears never stopped flowing from her eyes, her shoulders shook, and her breathing was interrupted by sobs. She lost another teammate, a friend she didn't manage to save. Nearby stood a dark-haired girl with limp hands hanging along her body, tears flowing from her red eyes from long sobs. She did not utter a sound, or a whimper. She even seemed to stop breathing. Her gaze was focused on the name carved on the tombstone, which she read over and over again, and tried to understand if everything that was happening was real, or it was just the worst of her nightmares. Is she sleeping? After all, last night she was prevented from sleeping by continuous sobs, and her own screams of despair, which the girl tried to drown out with a pillow. The screams of a girl who has lost a loved one. The funeral lasted 2 hours, and after that, everyone slowly began to disperse. Naruto's friends went to drown their grief, hoping to get drunk to the point of unconsciousness. It was just an attempt that no one really expected. Seniors and adults could not stop them, and they did not try understanding their feelings. However, older people understand more than teenagers. Falling into one of the eateries, they drank like adults, although they realized that they would not be enough for a long time. Silently or quietly talking, not feeling ashamed of the tears pouring from their eyes. Words were not needed today. The dark-haired girl did not drink. She did not like alcohol, and even if she did, he could not drown out this pain. She did not want to leave the cemetery, as if there was her place, and this thought frightened the girl, so that she came to her senses a little. Today she wanted to be with her friends, as much as possible, and share with them the bitterness of loss. 3 days have passed. Hokage's office. Comrades Naruto and his teacher, Kakashi and Yamato, gathered under one roof, within the walls of one office. I called you today to inform us about the 5-Kage meeting, Tsunade began seriously. It will decide an issue related to the further struggle against Akatsuki. I will go to the council in 2 days. Kakashi and Yamato will go with me. Senju continued no less seriously, and after a short pause, during which the Hokage's face was distorted by pain, she added, and more. Since Naruto, dying, asked me to seal the Kyuubi along with him, even though it was forbidden, now the elders and Dans will want to eliminate me. Therefore, if they succeed, Kakashi will take my place. She looked at the teacher of Team Number 7. I have already told the Daima of the Land of Fire about this. That's all, Tsunade said with strange relief. All the shinobi in the office left without a word. Leaving the office and into the hallway, Kakashi addressed the 2 members of his team, wistfully remembering that there were 3 of them a few days ago. Sakura, Sai, I want to warn you that you will now be under the strict supervision of the ANBU, Kakashi said sternly. Why is that, teacher? Sakura asked uncomprehendingly. After all, we can protect ourselves. This does not concern your protection. The teacher sternly looked at the girl with a serious look. This is necessary so that you, Sakura, do not go to take revenge on Akatsuki. And it is not discussed. After saying that, Kakashi turned around and walked down the hallway in the direction Yamato had gone to. Sakura, did you really want to go get revenge? Sai asked the girl with slight apprehension. Of course not, the kunoichi replied with a fake smile after a moment's pause. Naruto always wanted to free Sasuke from the circle of hatred, and I will never go the way the Uchiha chose. For the memory of Naruto. Well, see you later. Sai. Sakura left, waving. Yeah, of course, that's how I believed you, Sai thought to himself. Where am I? Naruto asked as he surveyed the place, which was entirely composed of soft white. Naruto opened his mouth again when he heard someone's shrill, but at the same time soft voice. You are in heaven, among the gods, Uzumaki, Namake's Naruto, that very child from the prophecy. Chapter 2 Conversation with the Gods. Where am I? Naruto asked as he surveyed the place, which consisted of soft white light filling the entire space. The question that escaped the guy's lips was drowned in the world around him. Shaking his head from side to side, Naruto tried to spot someone or something nearby. Not a single silhouette, not a single shadow, came across his eyes. And although in this strange place there was no feeling of cold at all, a shiver ran down the young man's back. Lowering his gaze to where, in theory, the floor or the ground should be, he saw something that he did not expect. More precisely, I did not see what I expected to see. Naruto did not have a shadow. From the outside it might seem that he was frozen in this emptiness, and the guy himself felt as if the deafening silence of this place was gradually absorbing him, intending, apparently, to absorb without a trace. These thoughts really scared Naruto. With a lightning flash, the last memories flashed through my mind. The battle with Akatsuki, pain in the whole body, and his victory, as he already understood then, was the last. Then darkness. So he heard Sakura's trembling voice, breaking into a scream, and then the voice of Tsunade, who was also nearby. And his quiet words in his own ears, spoken through pain as if in someone else's voice. The seal of the 5 elements. Take with you the last will, and the dying seconds of life, and strange sensations during the imposition of a seal. And then everything was gone. So, where do people go after death? Naruto's own thought sounded so loud that he seemed to say the words out loud. And perhaps it was only when he wanted to ask another question in the air, to call at least someone out loud, he heard. You are in heaven, among the gods, Uzumaki, Namake's Naruto, that very child from the prophecy. Voices, and there were definitely several of them, were heard from all sides, either by themselves, or from the silence around them. They sounded piercing and majestic, but at the same time softness was felt in them. Looking around, Naruto searched for the sources of the voices with his eyes. At first it seemed to him that he was still alone, like a few minutes, or hours back. Naruto was already beginning to fear, if he was imagining it. But suddenly a light breeze touched his cheek, which happens when someone passes by. Naruto rejoiced inside. He is not alone in this void. But joy was abruptly replaced by alertness. What if these someone are enemies? Distracted by his own thoughts, Naruto did not notice how shadows began to appear around him, gradually becoming clearer, and taking on the outlines of people. Naruto counted 5 shadows, and thought to himself that his position was unenviable, although it was like that even before the arrival of strangers. The silhouettes from the visions became more and more like people, and the more clearly Naruto saw them, the more he began to worry, fighting the urge to run as far as possible from this strange place, and from these strange people. But were they human? On close examination of people, they resembled physique and faces. Otherwise, the figures before Naruto were definitely not simple creatures. The strangers, now fully flesh and color, were silent, and Naruto took advantage of this to get a better look, trying to hide his inner excitement. Or the aliens specifically gave the young man the opportunity to see himself better. The first of the 5 figures was the figure of a man who was hard to miss. He wore a red cloak over his broad shoulders, from under which the pants of the same color were visible, very similar to the pants of the shinobi from the Naruto world. A wide rigid collar of a cloak covered the man's neck. Straight hair, the color of liquid lava, fell down to his shoulders. And probably, the man would have looked more or less ordinary if from behind his back the blood-red color of the wings could not be seen, the ends of which almost reached bare feet. The man's eyes sparkled like that. They read fervor and a certain amount of mockery. Perhaps he looked at everyone like that, and perhaps only at Naruto. Further to the right was a girl, from whom Naruto felt kindness and tenderness emanating in waves. This is probably how beloved children feel when they are hugged by loving mothers, but Naruto had nothing to compare with. The beauty's blue eyes looked directly at the guy. The skin was smooth and pale, only there was a barely noticeable blush on her cheeks. The girl's lips stretched out in a light, comforting smile, which made her soul really feel good and serene. Her hair was milky, shimmery with silver, and behind a wide cloak of the same milky color, one could not see how long her precious curls were. Equally barefoot, she stood leaning on a staff with a moon-shaped blade at the end. The staff was as pale as the girl's palm, so much so that it almost merged with the staff, as if they existed as one. On Naruto, the girl acted not only soothingly, but also bewitching, like something beautiful, but distant, almost unattainable. And although Naruto caught himself thinking that he was pleased to look at the girl, he shifted his gaze to the next guest in the circle, or the owner of this place. An abundance of green hues hit Naruto's eyes, so bright and saturated, as if in an instant he was in the middle of a dense forest that surrounded his native Konoha. Coping with the surprise, the young man realized that he had not moved anywhere, and before his eyes was a girl that was fresher than the luscious grass. Green eyes full of life, a pleasant skin tone, and long hair the color of moss, sometimes shimmering with gold, like the sun's rays on the purest cloudless day they were illuminated. Behind the girl's ear was a flower that resembled a rose. Next was someone. Due to the hood lowered over the face, it was difficult to understand whether it was a boy or a girl. The cloak, dark as night, stretched to the very bottom, so that it completely hid the legs. The cloak itself looked very worn out. From under the hood was visible pale skin, sunken cheeks, and thin, pale lips. Her face was framed by silver, as if gray hair. The hands of the stranger were pulled back. Behind the black figure, Naruto saw a long scythe, the blade of which was gigantic and shiny, that you could see your reflection in it. What and who can you not see in this strange place? The young man thought to himself. From the figure emanated an aura of some indifference to what was happening, as if she already knew everything that would happen next. Probably, if the shoulders of the black man did not rise, and then did not lower, which served as signs of breathing, Naruto would have thought that there was a very realistic statue in front of him. The last of the characters, a man, seemed to Naruto strange in his bright appearance, as if one stranger contained one part of all four. Black straight hair fell on broad shoulders, which were dressed in a white cloak. Under the unbuttoned cloak, a red-colored blouse was visible, almost scarlet, the edge of which fell to the hips, over the dark green pants. The feet of the last stranger were also barefoot. The skin of the fifth was darker than the others, as if tanned by the rays of the summer sun. The man's hands were holding a medium-sized hourglass. They seemed so old and decrepit that they should have already fallen apart. What was most interesting was the sand inside the watch. Being in an upright position, the sand, for unknown reasons, did not fall down as expected, but froze in an even strip in an effort to fall to the bottom. How strange. I don't know who they are gathered here, was spinning in Naruto's head. All those gathered looked at the young man with seriousness, red in the eyes, with approval or suspicion. Only the figure in the black cloak still hid its face. Hey, you, in a black cloak. Naruto burst out. Why aren't you looking at me? I must admit, the audience was a little taken aback by the guy's directness. My eyes are still closed to you, young Konoha shinobi. Your true time has not come yet. Young woman. A quiet and calm girlish voice spoke to Naruto, in which there was a sense of detachment and emptiness. Who you are. Naruto turned to everyone. Who are we? Asked the girl in black. I think we already told you where you are and who we are. Pondering what he had heard for a few seconds, Naruto spoke with hesitation in his voice. In heaven. His voice trembled on this word. And you? Gods? Right, the girl in black confirmed his words. I didn't think at all that the savior of this world was so dumb and deaf. It could be a joke, but it was difficult to judge by the unemotional voice of the speaker. Well, don't say that. After all, he is smart enough, just his brain works most of the time, according to the situation. And besides, his spirit is very strong, said the girl in green clothes. His fortitude may be strong, but the will of fire is even stronger in him. And it's not at all because of the Kyuubi. All this thanks to his own abilities, said the guy in the red robe. Perhaps, but his spirit is not connected with the power of the cosmos, which means, most likely, his cosmic state has not yet been awakened, said the white-haired woman. It doesn't matter how smart he is now. His spirit of space, spirit of nature, spirit of freedom of fire, that's what is more important. Over time, he will master all this, calmly and confidently said the guy with the sand watch. Naruto listened to their discussions for a long time, frowning at the fact that he was called stupid, and then completely forgot about him. Hey, maybe it's enough to discuss me in my presence? And in general, tell me, finally, who you are, and what you need. Ditbeo. I have already died. What can you take from me? You shouldn't get so excited, the man in the red cloak said, raising his hands in a conciliatory gesture. A smile played on his face. I think, before discussing the main issues, first we all need to introduce ourselves. I'll be the first. Fire God. You can call me Kagutsuchi. I am the goddess of death, Shinigami, said the girl in black. Tsukiyami, goddess of the moon, the girl in white introduced herself. Goddess of the earth, Ukmachi, said the girl in green clothes. God of time, Fakuro. Shocked, Naruto listened to them with open mouth. Is that really true? Do the gods speak to him? Or is this the last joke of his mind before dying? If there was where to fall, Naruto would have done it, but still doubting the presence of a floor under his feet, and fearing to suddenly fly down into the unknown, he stood on his feet. I see. Gods. He could only utter, but after a pause he added. Gods, tell me, why the heavens are empty. Finished for him Tsukiyami. Her clear, pleasant voice enveloped Naruto's mind. We sent this vision to you, so that nothing would distract us from a very important conversation. Which, I think, is already time to start, she added, smiling lightly. Yes, of course. A very important conversation with the gods. Naruto chuckled, and then, more seriously, added, "So what do you want from me?" Naruto, Kagutsuchi began to say, "You, as a child from a prophecy, have an important mission, so—" "Wait, what prophecy?" Naruto began. "Quiet," the Shinigami said smoothly, but in a tone that did not tolerate objection. "We will explain everything to you now. Listen carefully. Once upon a time, 1,000 years ago, Rikudo Sanin saved the world from a monster that gave birth to chakra and gave people strength. But the monster did it involuntarily. They took part of his power from him, and he decided to return it to himself. And Rikudo, thanks to his brother, managed to seal this monster in himself, after which he became the first Jinchi Riki of the 10-tailed Jubi Tengu, the god of destruction and chaos. But Rikudo knew that when he died, Jubi would break free and destroy the world. So Rikudo, before dying, divided the power into 9 parts, which he called the Biju." The Shinigami's voice faded. Her story echoed in Naruto's mind. The young man was silent. "I understand that the goddess of death has something to add. I think you want to know what you got to do with it. You, Naruto, are our last hope. The Akatsuki organization has already collected 7 Biju. Since you died, they will have to wait 2 more years for the Kyuubi to be reborn, but this will not happen. Thanks to the 5 elements seal," Naruto finished. "Honestly, I didn't think it would work. It was just a desperate attempt," he added in a whisper, looking down at the infinity outstretched beneath his feet. "It's understandable that you didn't think," the Shinigami added with the same indifference and notes of boredom in her voice, "but this is not because of the 5 elements print. This is because we will not do it ourselves. Kyuubi rebirth will not occur, since you will need it in your new life," said the goddess of the moon. At first, the words of the goddess did not reach Naruto for a few moments, but taking shape, color and taste, they covered his entire being. In a new life? What does this mean? And why would the Kyuubi help me? Asked Naruto. He will help you if you ask, Kagutsuchi replied. You will need the Kyuubi, as we will transport you to the time before the founding of the Shinobi world. The farther, the weirder, Naruto thought, surprised at the successive news from the gods. Where? What for? Or is this a joke? And how do I even get 1,000 years ago? You don't have to worry about it, Fukuro responded to this question. In a calm voice, he continued. They call me the god of time for a reason. It is in my power to send you to the past, 1,000 years ago, and to life we give you longevity. Longevity. A whisper escaped Naruto's lips. What the gods were explaining to him seemed absolutely inconceivable. That is, I have to live 1,000 years and... What? Go further in time. Yes, Goddess Ukmachi said with sincere regret in her voice. With how your future life will turn out, we cannot help you, your heart will tell you the way. After a pause, Ukmachi added, you are our only hope, Naruto. Your journey will be very long and difficult, and I wish you good luck, she finished, folding her palms in front of her in the castle, as if in prayer. Naruto, while traveling, you will frighten people with your power. They will be afraid of you, and try to avoid you, so I wish you that you never lose hope, and always remain yourself, Katsugichi said with a grin. Tsukiyami also addressed Naruto. The moon. is always alone, and far from Earth, but even she can find anyone, and that someone is Jubi. So don't let him get away from her. I wish you, that the moon will always illuminate your path to the future. Then came the quiet voice of the Shinigami. Naruto, you must always go forward when traveling. Remember, you will not grow old, unlike those you meet and let into your heart. There will be many losses on your way, but your heart should not become stale, lose love and compassion. So I wish you to become stronger, because only a strong heart will not close with love. Naruto, God Fakuro turned to the young man. Time is the most difficult phenomenon that exists in human lives. Being intangible, it is untouchable, you cannot hold it in your hands. As if to prove it, running your hand over the hourglass, they began to dissolve, until they completely disappeared. At the same time, time is one of the greatest riches of everyone born. It gives a chance to do a lot, to feel a lot. But what has been done in the past, no one can change. To nobody but you. Therefore, do not miss your chance to change what is possible, to change. Thanks. I will not let you down, nor the whole world. May I ask a question? For a second, Naruto felt like a Shinigami poke her tongue. Of course, ask a question, Tsukiyami said graciously. Naruto turned his gaze to Katsugichi and asked bluntly. Why does the god of fire need wings? A second of silence. 2, 3. The loud laughter of the gods spread around the unearthly space. You got caught, poser Katsu. Folding in half and laughing loudly, Ukmachi said with difficulty. Tsukiyami laughed softly, covering her mouth with her free hand. Her laugh was like the ringing of dozens of small bells. The bells mimic the laughter of the moon goddess, Naruto thought. God Fakuro said nothing, only nodded approvingly, smiling at his own thoughts. Katsugichi himself laughed along with everyone. I think this guy will not be lost. The Shinigami's black figure remained motionless in this unexpected burst of life. Only the shadow of a smile slid across her lips, appearing imperceptibly and disappearing, unnoticed by anyone. Good luck, young shinobi. Your journey begins. Chapter 3 Hinata's Feelings. Konoha. Hyuga Mansion. There was silence in the Hyuga clan chief's mansion. 4 days have passed since Naruto's death, and 2 days ago, a funeral took place, where all the villagers came to see off the hero they didn't know about. But life did not stop after the funeral, and everyone in the village returned to their worries. And the members of the Hyuga family were no exception. Hiashi, the head of the clan, was busy with paperwork. His youngest daughter Hanabi either trained or wandered around the rooms, looking for something to do, periodically sneaking into the kitchen and eating up the sweet hidden there. And everything returned to its former order, except for the behavior of Hiashi's eldest daughter, Hinata. After the funeral, Hiashi began to notice oddities in his daughter's behavior. She became more silent than before, and her gaze was often fixed on nowhere. Hinata kept up the conversation reluctantly, as if forcing herself to answer, and at lunch she did not eat even half of the portion, after which she went straight to her room, never visiting the training field. Needless to say, Hiashi was unhappy with his daughter's behavior. What an irresponsibility! Neglect health and training, and make the family worry about her. Maybe Naruto was the same age as Hinata and a comrade in battle, but Hiashi did not understand such a reclusive lifestyle, caused by the death of the young man. his daughter, the heiress of the great Hyuga clan, could not suffer so much, because of his death. Even after Naruto was posthumously declared the fourth Sannin, the hero of the Hidden Leaf Village, the son of the fourth, the Hyuga's opinion did not change. For Hiashi, Naruto remained a demon. But he strongly doubted if Hinata thought so. Therefore, Hiashi asked his youngest daughter Hanabi to ask Hinata how she felt about the late Uzumaki, because Hanabi is actually very curious, and would not raise Hinata's suspicions with her questions. And for the youngest daughter, Hiashi thought, it will be easier to talk to his sister. Why do you know how she feels about him, father? Hanabi asked in response to her father's request. It's just friendship, and Hinata is mourning his death. It's just that now, she can't come to terms with the death of her comrade. That's all. Hanabi, you must understand, can't just a friend suffer for so long from the death of a comrade, Hiashi insisted. Yes, quite a bit of time has passed, but even his teammates are already coming to their senses, but she still does not. Although they did not communicate closely, if they spoke at all. Could this mean that he was for her more than a friend? Dad, don't joke like that. It cannot be true. You know Hinata? Hanabi laughed. Enough. You go to Hinata's and find out everything, okay? Hiashi said sternly. The youngest daughter had no choice but to agree. Okay, I'm on my way, she said with a heavy sigh. Hinata's room. This room has not been lit for a long time. The book pages have not rustled for a long time. On the bed, wrapped in a blanket, as if in a cocoon, sat a dark-haired girl with a face paler than that of the most seriously ill person. Hinata was also sick. More precisely, her heart and soul ached. And that was hundreds of times more excruciating than any physical injury that a girl had ever received. With these sensations, she shielded herself from the whole world, and the people around her, family and friends, who did not want to hide from everyone, experiencing the loss of a loved one. Hinata wanted to hide from people for as long as possible, and while she was not touched, she was happy. Silence, solitude and memories of what cannot be returned. Outside, she could hear the sounds of life. The singing of birds, someone's voices and footsteps, the rare sound of the wind. But what is the vastness of nature, and fresh air, when you no longer want to breathe? What is the use of sunny days, when the brightest sun for Hinata disappeared forever behind the horizon? The girl saw everything around her as gray and meaningless. Things were lying on the floor, because there was no point in getting dressed and going somewhere. The book, lying open on the table, became a meaningless set of words that, if Hinata tried to read it now, she could not understand. Hinata didn't want to eat, but out of respect for her family, and unwillingness to collapse in front of her father into a hungry swoon, causing indignation and unwanted questions, she ate completely tasteless food as much as she could until it became bad. All Hinata's actions within the confines of her room were reduced to repetition of monotonous movements. Sit down, lie down, roll over on her side, and her thoughts were focused on the face in the photograph, which the girl did not let go of her hands. From the color photo, a pair of clear blue eyes of a blonde, whose face was illuminated by a typical contagious smile, looked at her. So Hinata could not resist smiling in return, although tears did not stop her eyes. There will be no end to this, the girl flashed through her head. I cannot stop. I cannot survive. I know you could help me, but you. Hinata was afraid to pronounce the last word even in her mind, not to mention about saying out loud what seemed to ruin her world, putting a heavy dot on everything that ever mattered to the girl. And the blue-eyed youth with wheat-colored hair still smiled motionlessly in the photo. For Hinata, it was no longer just a color photo. In her hands the girl held a window to her past life, when she had much more than she now has. The thought was unbearable. Memories acted on the girl both as a poison and as an antidote, either clouding her mind and giving her oblivion, then abruptly throwing her back into a cruel reality. The images rapidly replaced each other, forcing the heart to beat faster. It seemed that it was quite recently. Nasty evil boys surround Hinata, mock her and offend her. A thin, fair-haired boy with large blue eyes and a serious look emerges from the shadows of the trees. He defends a girl he doesn't even know, but the more bullies beat him up. And little frightened Hinata sits nearby and cannot do anything. And when adults come and the boys run away, she is not even allowed to help the unfamiliar boy who saved her because of the rumors circulating about him in the village. The first stage of the Chunin Shiken exam, a written test. Naruto and Hinata sit at the same desk. She has been watching him for a long time and admires his strength and determination. The girl sees that the neighbor has problems with the assignment, and because of this he is very depressed, to which she invites Naruto to copy the answers from her test. But he refuses, because he does not want both of them to be disqualified, and simply does not answer a single question. Hinata was amazed at his confidence, and that the boy was worried about her too. She became very embarrassed for her proposal, for which she asks Naruto for forgiveness. Qualifying fights for reaching the final of the exam. Hinata's opponent is her cousin Neji, which makes the girl scared. She knows how strong her brother is, and is not sure of her chances in this fight. Not sure from the word absolutely. Still, Hinata decides to fight against her brother. To change, to become better, become strong like Naruto. And when her brother puts pressure on her in every possible way, urging her to retreat, the blonde makes a noise and encourages the girl, saying that she can change her fate if she wants, and calls on to defeat Neji. Naruto's support gives Hinata strength, and she finally agrees to fight, tired of running away. The strength of his brother Hinata feels in close combat on his own body, but continues to fight, does not yield to the onslaught of the enemy thanks to the support of Naruto. Naruto, I've always looked at you, but now, finally, you are looking at me. Rises to her feet, after being hit hard, when Naruto calls on her to do so, and simultaneously stops Hayate, who was watching the fight, who was about to end the fight. Even if I die, I do not want to be so disgraced, not in the presence of the one whom I admire the most. And when the fight went too far, and the teachers still stop Neji, the girl is carried away on a stretcher, and above her she sees Naruto's face bent over. Naruto-kun, do you think I've changed? At least a little. The day of the final exam, Naruto has to fight Neji. Hinata accidentally meets Uzumaki at the battlefield, and sees his confusion and insecurity and also tries to support him, speaking honestly about his sense of admiration for him, even in those moments when he was losing, and calling him an incredibly strong man. Hinata, I thought you were gloomy, timid and generally strange, but you know, I'm glad that you are not, because I like you more like you now. don't forget to come see me grind Neji to powder. It seems that at this moment Hinata felt the happiest in the world. But the girl does not find the victory of Naruto, having lost consciousness from the internal bleeding that opened due to excitement. Hinata watches Naruto from afar when he leaves the village with Jiraiya for 2 long years, and looks at him from afar when he returns. This time, the girl trained, like the blonde, in order to become stronger. Naruto lies motionless, chained to the ground with metal pins, and pain, perhaps the strongest of the Akatsuki members, rises above him. And even the forces of Uzumaki are not enough to defeat such an opponent. Naruto's ban on interfering in the fight is addressed to everyone, but Hinata is not going to just stand on the sidelines when the young man fights one for all. I stand here of my own free will. My turn to save you, Naruto-kun. You showed me the right path in life. I always tried to keep up, to be closer, in the hope that someday I could walk by your side. To protect you, I am ready to die. Because I love you, Naruto-kun. Fight is hard for a girl, a new fall is a new wound, but what are injuries, when your loved one is going to be killed? At some point, she even manages to hit pain and save Naruto from several pins, but a new blow quickly throws the girl into the air, and gravity returns her down with a strong impact on hard ground. And it could have ended like this, but Hinata doesn't want to stop even when Uzumaki asks her to. The exhausted, wounded girl slowly approaches the guy on the ground, falls and rises again to do at least something. In order not to retreat. I never give up on my words, this is my ninja way. A look full of surprise, and a pale face. This is what the girl reads on the face of her beloved before, for the last time, against her will, soar into the sky, and collapse to the ground. She no longer opens her eyes, but only feels first a dull pain in her entire body from falling, and then a sharp one, somewhere in her chest, and the coldness of metal. I knew what I was doing, and did not back down. This is the main thing. And I was able to confess my feelings to Naruto. I wish I could find out what he thinks about it. Next time, she will open her eyes, and find out something terrible, something that will turn her world. But then the wonderful oblivion ended, destroyed by the last memory of Naruto, his name on the tombstone. And again the pain pierced the girl's body, as it happened every time the cycle of these repeated films was interrupted, leaving a new mark on the already wounded heart. Accept? Accept? No. How can you accept what you have not seen even in the worst of nightmares? I knew that you were not omnipotent, Hinata thought, and I was worried about you, wherever you were. But my faith in you, in your ninja path is so strong, that I did not allow the thought that once you... I asked too much? Was it naive? No. I just love you. I love with all my heart, all my life. For who you are. For what I have become thanks to you. Who am I now? I no longer feel alive, as if you took me along with. Hinata muffled the heartrending scream by burying her face in the pillow at the head of the bed. This is not her first breakdown during these days. The pillow was wet with tears and hopelessly crumpled, but since none of the home ran in fright to the door of her room, it means that no one heard the girl. If anything, Hinata hoped so. If Hinata still expected from her sister that she would understand, and would not bother, then a strict father would definitely not have tolerated such hysterical behavior from the heiress of the Hyuga clan. In the background of her consciousness, Hinata wondered why her father had not yet demanded that she stop this chaos. As if to confirm that Hinata's thoughts were being heard somewhere, there was a knock on the door. How loud, the girl thought involuntarily, having lost the habit of ordinary sounds. The repeated knocking brought the girl out of her thoughts. "Hinata, it's me, Hanabi," the elder heard. "Open, I want to talk to you." "Don't. I don't want to. Go away," Hinata thought to herself, clutching the photo frame to her chest, as if it were the most valuable object in her life. A prick of conscience inside did not escape her attention. The girl was ashamed in front of her family for alienation, and ignorance of the feelings of others unusual for her. But the bitterness of loss prevented Hinata from becoming even a little like the one she was a few days ago. And if on the day of Naruto's funeral she wanted to be with friends, now she saw consolation only in solitude. "No," Hinata said in a voice hoarse with sobs, and a long silence towards the door. "Ka. I'm sleeping. Please leave, Hanabi." "I'm not leaving." Resolutely came to the elder from behind the door. "We are all worried about you. You feel bad. Something is happening to you. You need to talk. But you will not let us. Open the door. Let's talk." "Go away, please," Hinata repeated, scrolling through her head. The thought, "No need. Enough." Standing in the hallway, and gazing at the door, Hanami realized that she would have to act harder. "Or you'll talk to me," the Dungust said a little more quietly, but so that she could be heard from the other side of the door. "Or with Dad. He will definitely get the whole truth out of you, and it can be more unpleasant than." Before the Dungust had finishing, she heard a hasty stomp rapidly approaching the door, and then the door itself opened abruptly, revealing the owner of the room to Hanabi's eyes. The appearance of the older sister, frankly speaking, caused anxiety in the girl. Her face was paler than usual. Her hair was disheveled, her cheeks seemed to be sunken, which was not the case before. Her clothes were wrinkled and worn out, but the most noticeable were her eyes, red from tears, and as if ready to cry again, and the bruises underneath. Hanabi knew that it was hard for her sister, but now she really began to worry, and wondered if she was mistaken in her judgments, and whether she should call her dad for help. "Don't, Dad," Hinata said as if reading the thoughts of the Dungar Hyoga. The girl, knowing for sure that she would not have a chance in a conversation with her father, decided that it was better to listen to her sister, and try to convince her that everything was in order, or, in any case, not as bad as it might seem from the outside. She thought about this when she got out of bed, simultaneously throwing the blanket heated by her body on the floor, and quickly ran across the room, opening the door to her sister with her hand free from the photo frame. Hanabi noticed the object in the elder's hand, but could not see the image. Hinata, discovering her mistake, quickly turned her back on her sister and, throwing a timid come-in over her shoulder, went to the bed to lift the blanket, and supposedly make the bed, but in fact, unnoticed hide the photo under the pillow. "What are you hiding from me? What are you talking about?" Hinata asked as surprised as she could. "I'm not hiding anything." "Yes? What if I look under the pillow?" the Dungar asked, raising one eyebrow in displeasure. "Let's start with the fact," the elder said quietly and calmly, sitting down on the bed, "that this is my room, and I don't allow you to do whatever you want here. We need to deal with this as soon as possible, and then she will leave." "So, you wanted to talk. I'm listening." Hanabi did not escape the detachment and impatience, So unusual for her sister, who is always good-natured, and does not know how to hide her feelings, enter from afar or ask directly. That's what worried the younger Hyoga. Why are you in such a mess? It's dark, and it doesn't hurt to ventilate, asked Hanabi, examining the room. I don't have time for cleaning. Hinata thought up excuses as she walked. Tomorrow is a responsible mission. I must, properly, rest and prepare. Even I wouldn't believe it, the girl thought, reproaching her own address. No gaps. Who prepares in a closed room in the dark and starving? Fair enough, Hinata told herself, but you can't retreat. My preparations do not concern you, Hinata said with all available calmness. When you start going on missions, you will prepare as you need to. It's all. No. Believe me, sister, this is just the beginning. Do you think I'll be comforted by such silly excuses? Look at yourself. Hinata, you can't look at you without tears. You are exhausted, you are tormenting yourself. And I know what the hell is wrong, finished the Dungust. Just calmness, pull yourself together, Hinata thought, trying to contain a shiver, and a slowly approaching nervous breakdown. What are you talking about? Do not pretend to be a fool, everything is clear. Hanabi began with great pressure. Now or never. You're not yourself after that guy's funeral. It was hard to watch the sister's reaction. Slouched shoulders, a running glance, and a noticeable tremor as from a weak, but unexpected electric shock, a tremor that betrayed Hinata's state, and its cause so treacherously. Yes. I thought it was after the fight with Akatsuki and your injury, but I doubted, and now I see. The funeral did something to you. Hanabi tried to gradually bring to her main idea. The guy, who was he to you? Everyone, Hanabi, everyone. Hinata wanted to scream with all her remaining strength. He is everything to me. My strength, my courage. I would be a completely different person, if it were not for him, if he did not save me once, and then every day with his smile, and what he is. But you will not understand, no one will understand what it is, like when the light is taken away from you. You would not wish the same to the enemy. He's my friend, Hinata said, hiding from her sister a look full of despair, and barely contained tears. But such a crumpled, forceful answer did not satisfy Hanabi. For herself, the Dungust decided that she would have to push further. Sorry, Hinata, this is how it should be. Lie. Your words contradict your behavior. He was a friend to his comrades, but they do not lock themselves at home, but live on. They accepted what happened. But not you. Although I know you have not been close, but you suffer the hardest. Tell me why. Come on, Hinata, tell the truth, share with me. There is nothing to say. Nothing, then? That's stubborn, although everything is written on her face. Then explain to me why you cry even now. Not true. An unconvincing whisper instead of a semblance of firmness in his voice. I didn't cry. I just didn't get enough sleep. Hanabi, please stop, Hinata begged to herself. I'm in pain. I can't take it anymore. Why don't you back down? Don't you leave me alone? I myself know that I look sick, that I behave strangely, but leave this secret to me, please. After all, only he knew about it. Only I told him. This is our secret with him. Leave it to us. Enough. I've heard enough of these nonsense. Tell the truth. Did you Loved him? Decisive moment. What? Hinata's thrown breath did not allow her to think calmly, and the unabated pain reminded of herself with a vengeance. I don't understand what you mean. How did you know? I do not believe. Still bleeding wounds burned with the strongest flame, burning out consciousness. You are not right. Is it so noticeable? I don't believe it again. The air in the lungs was sorely lacking. Honestly, Who else knows? The truth, Hinata. Physical exhaustion already threatened to deprive Hinata of feelings right now, but she still remained in this real-world gagging with another stream of tears, choking in the approaching breakdown. Enough. Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. There are no more forces. Whatever you want, let it just go away. Did you want the truth? So listen. I loved him. And I continue to love him. Probably, for the rest of my empty life, I will love only him. If you knew Naruto-kun the way I do, you would understand. I owe him everything. Obliged to what I have become. He is the only one so special, amazing, but now his. And again the lips, already bitten to blood, could not utter these words. But now I'm alone, you know? I no longer feel the strength, even the one I had. I don't want to eat, I don't want to think, I don't even want to breathe. It's gone, you know? Me. With shaking palms, the girl closed her eyes, no longer trying to restrain herself. Tears flowed incessantly, the sound of sobs filled the room. Now they do not need to be muffled with a pillow. Stunned, Hanabi silently, with a bursting heart, watched this picture. She saw her sister, timid, but at the same time strong, absolutely broken. Carefully so as not to frighten her, Hanabi walked over to Hinata, who was sitting on the bed, sobbing, and hugged her by the shoulders. The older one shuddered in surprise, but did not push her sister away. A barely perceptible warmth spread from the girl's head to the abdomen, especially noticeable somewhere near the heart. Tired of everything, and, most importantly, of her own feelings, Hinata hugged her sister in return, allowing herself to forget everything for a while. Now it's easier for you, but then what? Consciousness did not subside. You know it won't be long, that this pain will return. I know, came the Dungust. The meaning of the words remained incomprehensible to her, but she did not bother her sister. Did that guy, that is, Naruto, know about your feelings? Hanabi asked carefully. I confessed to him before I was hurt, Hinata said. I get it on time. I hope he heard me. Well, and he? Hanabi, I am sure that for him, I am only a friend and comrade. The thought didn't hurt Hinata anymore. It didn't matter now. Was like a blow in the stomach, the word echoed inside the girl. What? Was a friend and comrade, Hanabi clarified. I noticed. Well, it's hard for you to talk about him in the past tense. You seem to be paralyzed. Sister, you can't do that. How is it impossible? So you still loved him, came a calm male voice from behind the sisters. The girls, turning to the door, saw their father in the aisle. Hanabi, couldn't you close the door? Hanabi, leave us alone. From what she heard, Hinata involuntarily squeezed her hands tighter, afraid to let go of her sister. She didn't want to be left alone with her father in such a state, which would undoubtedly require detailed explanations. And Hanabi would also like to stay and support Hinata. But it seems that both of them realized that it was better not to contradict the father. Not because he will begin to scold them, but because there is nothing more to hide. The secret is revealed, and it remains only to honestly tell everything. Well, the Dungar answered quietly, continuing to stand still. In the end, Hanabi hugged her older sister just as tightly, whispering to her a soothing "Everything is fine. Do not worry, sis. You are not alone." And then she opened her hands, and obediently left the room, on the way thinking whether to stay outside the door to listen. But realizing that her father would notice her, and would not approve of such behavior, she quickly dismissed the thought. Hanabi could only trust his father. She understood Hinata's feelings, but if her father could understand them, she was not sure. While the steps of Hanabi moving away from the door became quieter, Hiyashi silently looked at his eldest daughter, assessing her condition, and wondering what to say to her. The girl tried not to look at her father, staring at the floor. After a moment's hesitation, Hiyashi asked, "Can I turn on the light?" "Don't." Hinata involuntarily burst out, and the shame for another intemperance made her blush. "This is a terrible mess. Found something to worry about at a moment like this." "Okay," Hiyashi replied calmly. "Will I sit down?" he asked, pointing to a wooden chair at the table. Of course. Father and daughter sat opposite each other, it seemed, both hovering in their own thoughts, full of confusion and anxiety. Hiyashi was worried about his daughter, and was choosing the words to start a conversation. But everything seemed stupid to him, so he decided to ask immediately, directly, and with all seriousness. "And how long have you had feelings for him?" Such an unexpectedly interrupted silence, and such a frank question for a moment, brought Hinata out of her barely established calm and concentration. Weakness and malnutrition did not prevent the girl from blushing deeply at these words. Fortunately, the room was dark enough so that Hiyashi might not have noticed. Perhaps, since he saved me from hooligans as a child. Hinata, in the darkness of her room, could not see how her father furrowed his brows, mentally returning to the past, to those events when his daughter was still small. But it was not necessary. This image was so clearly looming in the girl's head that it was not necessary to see with her eyes. Of course I heard that someone saved you then. But I didn't even think that this someone would be this Uzumaki. Why didn't they tell you?" "It didn't matter to me then," Hiyashi replied. "But now I understand how hard it is for you. You have loved him for so many years. And you continue to love him." "Yes," Hinata said, although there was no question in her father's words. She just wanted to confirm these words, both to her father and to herself. "Clear. And you can't come to terms with what happened?" "Never. That's how it is," Hiyashi said quietly. "Do not think that I put pressure on you and, moreover, do it for myself. I understand how you feel, Hinata, and I'm worried. That's why I'm going to tell you something. So listen. Try to forget what happened, and come to terms." Her father's words made Hinata raise her head and look at the silhouette of the man sitting in front of her. What he heard did not want to fit into the girl's head. "What is absurd? How can you say something so cruel? Why do you say that? You must understand that it is virtually impossible to forget him. I'm not saying to forget him. Forget Naruto and feel better from this. I would only be glad. But you cannot forget your loved one. No one can, Hiashi explained with seriousness and longing in his voice. Hiashi's fists involuntarily clenched tighter as his thoughts carried him away. Only he was given. I say forget what happened. Letting go of the past, your regrets and regrets about what has not been done, because the past cannot be returned. And Naruto cannot be returned either. If you can really love, then let go with the same love. Do you think he would be pleased to see your suffering? The question took Hinata by surprise, making him miss her breath and feel a herd of goosebumps running through her body. How would Naruto feel if he saw me like this? I didn't think about his feelings at all. Naruto, who always worries about his friends more than himself. Worried? The girl corrected herself with pain in her heart. Would he be worried about me too? Of course. After all, Naruto helped me so many times, because he cared, because he could not do otherwise. And what would he think, watching me close myself from the world, from my family and friends, literally crumble to pieces? I'm sure Naruto would have supported me with words and a smile, assuring me that everything would be fine in the future. I'm not alone. The main thing is not to retreat. Move on. And he would be right. Thank you, Father. I think I understand you. Hinata sighed, smiling at her father with tears in her eyes. Hiashi, looking at his daughter, smiled and nodded in response to her words, and his own thoughts. It's too early to relax, Hiashi thought, but he believed in the best, and in the strength of his eldest daughter. Going to leave the room, he went up to the girl, who got out of bed, and kissed her on the forehead, which was very rare, and therefore very valuable for the girl. Now Hinata felt the birth of new powers in her, so far barely noticeable, but this was only the beginning. Approaching the door, and already about to open it, Hiashi turned to his daughter and asked, "So should I turn on the light?" Hinata smiled slightly and then replied, "Thank you, myself. You've already done that, Dad." After talking with her father, Hinata slowly, getting used to the already forgotten movements, put things in order in the room, as far as her strength allowed. For the girl, actions that were once so mundane now seemed strange, but pleasant. Hinata felt as if her body missed this simple manipulation of her own things. And the feeling of putting things in order was inspiring. It would be just as easy to put things in order in your head. Then, having brought herself into a decent look, the girl went to the kitchen in search of light food. There she found Hanabi. The youngest, looking at her sister, and smiling with relief, went up to the girl, and hugged her without saying anything. The hugs were mutual. Together they had a bite to eat, and then Hanabi went to her room, inwardly still worried about her sister. Hinata remained in the kitchen, considering her next steps. She had an important task to which she was afraid to start, from the thought of which her head began to spin. At the same time, the soul and heart said that it was necessary to do this, that it will be so right. So, returning to her room, she changed into comfortable street clothes, and left the mansion, heading towards the cemetery. The weather was surprisingly pleasant, perhaps even ideal. The blue sky of the color of your beloved eyes was pleasing and bewitching. The sun warmed the body and soul, slightly dispelling the girl's inner experiences, and the light wind gave freshness, smoothing Hinata's long hair. "Naruto-kun, you seem to be there even in the weather." With a leisurely step, saving energy and partly delaying the moment of arriving at the cemetery. The girl, carrying a small package in her hand, inspecting the houses and shops around her, watched the people passing by, whose heads were full of their own worries. And it's true, life hasn't stopped. Hinata considered it lucky that she had no friends along the way. This is the last time. I need some more loneliness. Having reached the entrance to the cemetery, the girl involuntarily stopped, starting to breathe intermittently. Hugging herself with her free hand in an attempt to calm herself, Hinata closed her eyes, breathing deeply, restoring her calm, and drowning the aching pain inside. Of course, Hinata didn't fool herself into thinking it would be easy, but she didn't think it would be that hard either. It's so necessary, she said to herself, opening her eyes and taking a step into the territory of the cemetery. There was silence in the cemetery, as usual. Tombstones with names engraved on them forever, and memories, both painful and healing, are all that remain in memory of the departed. Hinata didn't have to look where to go. She would have found her way to the grave of her beloved with her eyes closed. She wanted it so much. To close her eyes again, to return to the room again, in oblivion, just not to see. But the truth could not be hidden with closed eyes, and Hinata fought with herself, realizing that she could no longer hide. That she has no right to do it. This is the place. Even the flowers, brought by the villagers, still looked fresh. A place where a few days ago there were a lot of people, and Hinata was among them. The day that the girl remembers vaguely, as if an event had happened long ago. And it seemed that nightmares are best remembered. Still holding herself in the arms of her free hand, the girl hastened to kneel in front of the tombstone, fearing that she would break down and faint. In my head, doubts were spinning, whether she was in a hurry to come here. Is she in a hurry to say goodbye? But I'm already here, and then it will get easier. Should, right? Hello, Naruto-kun. Hinata began to speak quietly. The eyes, just like on the day of the funeral, focused on the name engraved on the slab. The bag from the girl's hand dropped to the ground next to her. Hinata put her trembling palms together and, closing her eyes, prayed in silence, alone with herself and with her lover. I came to visit you. And I brought you something. Opening her palms, the girl took out something from a bag lying next to her. This is an onigiri from my house. Next time, I'll bring your favorite ramen from Ichiraku. Sitting in front of the grave, humbly dropping her hands on her knees, the girl mustered up the courage to speak. It wasn't so much Naruto needed it as she herself. To get back to life. To move on. Regret nothing, as my father said. I've been awfully selfish for these few days. Withdrawn into myself. After your death. Everything changed when you were gone. I have changed. And I didn't like it myself, but I couldn't do anything with myself. I could not raise my hands, take a step. Nothing. You left. And like me too. Taking a breath, he brushed aside the tear that had appeared. Hinata continued, but you can't do that. My father explained this to me, and I try to understand his words. He asked if it would be nice for you to see my suffering. And I didn't think about it. I was fixated only on myself and my grief, on the past, and on thoughts about you. But you wouldn't want to see me like this. Even if I was only a friend to you, you would be sad, and you, Naruto-kun, would definitely support me and calm me down. I would remind you that everything will work out, that the main thing is not to give up, Believe in yourself, and in your own ninja way. Now you cannot say these words to me. So I say them to myself. I will always love you. Naruto-kun is my ideal, to which I strove. I will always remember your kindness, courage and strength. And these bright memories will help me rise, as if you are by my side, guiding me. I will devote myself to the life of a shinobi. I will train, return to the team, to my friends. They miss you too, I know that, Hinata added. I will try not to retreat anymore, not to forget my friends. And believe in yourself at least a little the way you believed in yourself, Naruto. So, don't worry about me, where you are now. After all, that's what I came for. Tears were already flowing continuously from the girl's eyes. The next words spoken cost her a lot of effort. To let you go. Your smile, your light, is forever in my heart, so it will no longer close to the outside world. I promise you, Naruto-kun, and myself that I won't lose myself anymore. The tears, that poured with renewed vigor from the girl's eyes, were not tears of grief or despair. It was a spiritual impulse, tears of relief, when you throw a stone from your soul, and your chest fills with air, and a seemingly irreversible clarity of thought appears in your head. The girl's hands reached out to her face, to close her eyes, and again hide from the world. Inside the Hyuga continued to fear that she would not be able to cope with such a burden, but Hinata did not give slack, did not break the promise she had just made. And the palms, into a fist with such force that the knuckles turned white, remained on their knees, and the back did not bend under the feeling of fear of the future that was beginning to recede. Warmed by the sun, comforted by the pleasant breeze and silence, Hinata continued to sit at the grave for a while. At that moment, it seemed to the girl that it was not the sun, but someone's arms hugging her shoulders, supporting and protecting. Maybe it was just nonsense, but Hinata admitted to herself that she was glad for him. Then, after praying again, and promising her beloved to come again, the girl got up, and slowly walked towards the exit, immersed in her own thoughts. She left, not noticing that behind her from afar, hiding in the shade of tree branches outside the cemetery, a man with shoulder-length silver hair was watching, unknown, whose face, except for the shadow, was hidden by the mask of the white fox. Chapter 4 Forward Kurama. The sky was illuminated by the sun, which did not shine tidal and delighted people with its warmth. And even through a dense forest, where large trees grew, it made its way through the leaves, and with its rays, illuminated the body of a boy with yellow hair, who was lying with his elbows against a tree. Anyone who looked at him would not understand what happened to him. He had a torn orange jacket that was unbuttoned, and a tattered t-shirt, also torn trousers, and on all his clothes there were traces of the fact that the one on whom these clothes had survived a terrible battle, but there was not a scratch on the owner himself. Naruto winced at the rays of the sun shining on him, and opened his eyes. He didn't know where he was. Standing up, he began to examine the area, but this was the first time he saw it. And then he remembered the battle with Pain, and the conversation with the gods, that he was a child from the prophecy. So I am in the past. What am I supposed to do now? Asked himself the blonde looking at the area. But his thoughts were interrupted by a voice he hadn't heard for a long time. Naruto, come down to me, said a voice. The blonde sat down without thinking, for a long time, and closed his eyes, and when he opened it, he was already standing in front of the cage with the seal. And inside, as always, was the strongest of the tailed beasts? What did the fox call? Asked seriously Naruto. He understood now no one will help him suppress the power of the fox when he takes it under control. Where are you now? Asked the surprisingly blonde foxes. That is? You called me to tell me where I am? Naruto asked the fox. Don't pretend you don't understand me. I can feel chakra even when sealed in Jinchuriki. I could feel all the shinobi all the time, even if they were thousands of kilometers from my vessel. And now I don't feel anyone. And besides, you died fighting that pain, said the fox without taking his eyes off his Jinchuriki. Naruto was greatly shocked by him, and could not imagine that the Kyuubi could sense the shinobi's chakra at such a distance. Wait, you mean you don't know what happened to me? Azumaki asked. You really are a ram. I called you, because I don't know where you are. What happened in that battle? Why didn't you die? Asked already shouting foxes. He did not like it at all. When Naruto was dying, he was already ready to break free, but then it seemed that darkness swallowed him, and when he came to, he no longer felt anyone around the Jinchuriki, and the blonde himself was passed out, so he could only wait. When he wakes up, I really died. But so to speak, I was given a second chance. Naruto answered sadly. That is. You died, but were you given a second chance? Who gave, and how is this related to the fact that I do not feel shinobi? The fox asked calmly, starting to believe in his guesses. When I died, I came to my senses in a strange place, and there were gods who told me that I was a child of prophecy. But since I died, then the future of the world is in jeopardy. Therefore, in order to save the world, they sent me into the past, so that I would gain strength, and they said that they would send me to where the shinobi had not yet originated. 1,000 years ago, answered the blonde. Silence fell between the two of them, each thinking about his own, but Naruto could not imagine what was going on in Fox's thoughts. For 1,000 years. This is what happens now somewhere in these lands. Old man Higuramo, Dad, walks. But I do not feel it, because we are too far away, or it is not yet there. So stop. If he was transferred to the past, then why me? Because it upsets the balance. 2 nine tails cannot be in the same time. Or this guy. The fox was thinking, and to confirm his guess, he decided to ask Naruto, where else what? Naruto, tell me, what is your mission in the past? Asked the fox. Well, they said to become strong, and gave me longevity, although I still did not understand what it was. Said already Naruto, smiling. For some reason, he even found it pleasant to talk to Kyuubi. That's it. But what do they want him to do? After all, everything has been in order so far. How the death of one boy could so interest the gods. The fact that he is a child of the prophecy does not mean that his death can shake the balance in the world so much. What should he do? All the fox wondered how Naruto turned to him. And Kyuubi, I don't know how to start. Huh? But you? Naruto still couldn't pronounce. Kyuubi, tell me your real name. Naruto asked seriously. The fox was not only surprised, he was shocked, because in his entire life none of his Jinchuriki had ever asked him about this. Kyuubi, this nickname has already become for him a name that he adopted due to the fact that he began to believe that people did not deserve to know his real name. And then some guy whom he took control more than once, and hurt his girlfriend. And because of which he and the people from his village died. And now he asks his name. Kiabi is my name, answered the fox. He wanted to check the guy. It is not true. Kiabi is the nickname given to you by the shinobi. I understand you, and I almost never spoke. According to your thoughts, I should hate you. But all the same, you do not want any harm to anyone. Believe it or not, Kiabi, but I understand you. I'm like you. You know that in the village, I was rarely called by my name, and I've even got used to my name being not Naruto, but a demon. But still, when I was called Naruto, and sometimes even Uzumaki, I felt such joy in my soul. That is why I want you to have such joy now. I can see in your eyes that there is someone here in the past whom you would be glad to see. Let's find him together. Be my partner. No, my friend, Naruto said, and walked right up to the cage and flew up. The fox, out of shock, watched Naruto's action. He was already at the seal, and his hand touched it. He was ready to rip it off. What does this guy think? Because I can break free, and he will die, and does not fulfill his task. He even understands. He can live 1,000 years, and see all his friends again. Stop. Why am I worried about this? That he will die. The main thing is that I will be free. The foxes began to rejoice, but for some reason, just for a second after Naruto broke the seal, he said his name. Kurama, that's my name, the fox said as he watched Naruto almost break the seal. I'm Naruto. Nice to meet you, Kurama, Naruto said and tore off the seal. The cage opened himself. The blonde man landed on the floor, and raised his gaze to the fox, who stood there without doing anything. The cage had disappeared now. Nothing prevented him from taking control of the blonde, but instead he extended his clenched paw into a fist. Naruto smiled and walked up to bang his fist on the fox's fist, and they both smiled. Well, what forward to the new world of Kurama? Naruto said. Yes. Go ahead, Naruto, Kurama replied. Chapter 5: An Unexpected Meeting. It's already been 2 months since I ended up in the past. During this time, I came across a village that was not far from the place where I woke up. At first it was very difficult for me to appropriate, because there were many things that I had never seen, and besides, people lived here in a completely different way. It was hard to believe that there was once no shinobi. If it weren't for Kurama, I wouldn't know anything at all, but he told me a lot. Still, the tale of the Sage of the Six Paths was not a fairy tale, but the truth, and thanks to him, shinobi appeared. Kurama, tell the sage is alive now, Naruto asked his friend while sitting under a tree in the clearing. Well, I can't tell you that. I don't feel him now, but that doesn't mean he's dead. It may be that it does not reach the radius of my sensory abilities. And besides, you will not need my hint to find it. You now have my power, ideally so you can feel it yourself, Kurama said. But how do I know it's him? Naruto asked. You are still a ram, said the fox, closing his eyes. What? The blonde asked out of anger. Well, think for yourself how you can confuse him, if at this time he is the only one who can have chakra, Kurama said. Listen, you yourself said that he shared his power with others, so how can I find out what it is? Naruto asked. Just think, even if he shared chakra, it does not mean that those with whom he shared chakra will have more of it than he has, Kurama said, wondering how this ram could save the world. and here it is," Naruto said, and got up and went in the direction of the village. Today Naruto decided to leave this village because he wanted to learn more about the world. Therefore, due to the fact that he did not have many things, he packed his bag and left the village. Walking along the road, Naruto could not believe that after all, everything that happens to him is actually happening. This whole story for him is like a dream that will soon end. But calm and long thoughts had to be cut off as far from him. He heard a cry and headed there. Imperceptibly jumping on a tree, he began to observe what was happening on the ground. And there now 10 armed men attacked the caravan, which was with only one horse, and as Naruto noticed, there were only 3 people who could hold weapons there, 2 guys and a girl. They decided not to give up, and continued the fight. Despite this, Uzumaki could not believe that ordinary people fought so hard and participated in the same tasks as shinobi in the future. But during the time that he was thinking, the robbers disarmed 3 guards and severely wounded 1, so Naruto jumps from the tree without thinking and knocks down one of the robbers without notice. All the other 6, who remained on their feet after the battle for the fact that the 3 guards were still able to kill the 3 bandits, were shocked that some guy got behind them and knocked out one of them. "Who are you?" one of the bandits shouted, pointing his sword at Uzumaki. All members of the caravan and 3 guards looked at the guy, who appeared as if out of thin air, and knocked out one of the bandits. The girl, who got up with difficulty, looking at the guy and immediately shouted, "You fool, run! They will kill you!" A girl with white hair shouted, dressed in white pants, a black t-shirt and gray armor over it. "To get me to run? It never happened, and never will." Naruto spoke, and the bandits rushed at him. Everyone already knew that the guy was about to die, and were preparing to defend himself further and somehow survive, but they were all just in great shock when none of the bandits could even touch the guy, who even tried to repel the attacks of his opponents in his face. And in just a couple of seconds, all his opponents were lying on the ground, unable to even move. Naruto returned to the caravan, and fear gripped everyone. After all, they did not know what goal the guy was pursuing, but here he smiled guiltily as if he had done wrong before someone. "Oh, I'm sorry," the blonde said. Everyone looked at the blonde in shock, and did not understand who he was apologizing to, but they could not even imagine that the blonde was apologizing to his friend, who was yelling at him with all his might. "You are a fool. You at least understand that by your actions you can change the future," shouted at the blonde fox. "Are you okay?" asked Naruto. "People missing everything that the fox says, deafening." "So, thank you," said one of the guards, who was the only one who stood on his feet. "Ren, are you okay?" The girl ran up to the lying guy, who was seriously injured. "The wound is too deep in it. It must be closed immediately," Naruto said, taking out medical supplies from his belt bag. But as soon as he got too close to the wounded and the girl, right in front of his eyes, the sword of the fighter, who had just recently thanked Naruto for his help, was pointed at him. "I want to help," the blonde said. "Do you think I'll let you into my partner? Boy, I thank you for saving us, but I don't know you, so let's disperse peacefully," said the fighter. "I'll just stop the bleeding. The wound in the neck is too deep, and he might die if not helped," Naruto said, not thinking that those whom he had saved would send a katana at him. "Guy, do not make me attack you. You did us good, and then we ourselves," said the fighter. Naruto watched as the girl was already wrapping up the guy's wound, but he, having a medical ninja in his companions many times, like Sakura, healed the wounds. After that, they also wrapped her around, putting various ointments on the bandage. And this girl just wrapped up the wound. "Well, your problems," Naruto said, turning around, but turning his head, turned to the girl. "I would not wrap the wound in your place. Here you are." Then Naruto threw his medicines to her with various ointments that fell to the ground near her. "And then wrap the wound," the blonde said. "Curl up behind the trees." "What's your name?" shouted the girl. "Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto," Naruto said, disappearing into the trees. When he completely disappeared, the guy who was holding the sword took the medicine that the blonde threw and gave it to the girl. She took the medicine and was just shocked. She had never seen such medicine. Having unwound the wound, she anointed the wound with ointment and simply could not believe. The blood gradually stopped, and after wrapping the wound with bandages that the blonde gave, she saw how her partner got better. "Who is Jur?" the girl asked, realizing that she would not receive an answer. "Uzumaki Naruto." "Come on, we don't have time to linger," said Jur, hiding the sword and putting his partner in the caravan, and everyone continued to move. Naruto walked in thought, realizing that in battles here everyone was much inferior to him. And besides, since he did not meet a single shinobi, he should not use the technique. "Naruto, what are you doing?" Kurama asked his Jinch. Ricky, hoping to hear a normal answer. "What is it?" Naruto asked. "You are interfering in the course of events. Suddenly, they had to die there, and you saved them," said the fox. "And what's bad here?" Naruto asked. "I do not even know. It can change the whole future to the fact that you may not even be born," said the fox. "I do not believe in this. After all, if I saved them, I think everything should have started to change. And Kurama, please tell me, do you really think that I can pass by when someone is in danger?" Naruto asked. Kurama didn't say anything, but just kept watching where the blonde was going. And now, approaching one village, Naruto stood rooted to the spot. "Kurama, can you feel it?" Naruto asked. "So, there is someone here, and just with a colossal chakra. And I can say for sure this is not a sage. I'm sorry to help you with something," sounding the voice behind Naruto. Naruto was seized by a terrible cold. He had never experienced such a force. Turning around, he looked at a beautiful girl with such beautiful eyes. "What is your name, and what brought you to my village?" the girl asked, smiling. "My name is Naruto and I travel." "Who are you?" Naruto asked as his hands were sweating. "And that's it. Nice to meet you, Naruto. I am Tsutsuki Kaguya." Chapter 6. The sun illuminated the clearing in which Naruto lay. He reflected on everything that happened to him when he came to the village. As it turned out, Kurama did not know anything about Kaguya and who she was, but she was respected in the village, and the ruler was apparently in love with her, and she oozes it. "Are you still pondering what happened there when you were taken to the ruler?" Kurama asked. "Yes. This Kaguya, she oozes the ruler, and she knows that I own the chakra, because all the time that we were in his room, she did not take her eyes off me," Naruto said, and began to remember what happened 3 days ago. Pav Naruto. Naruto. What a lovely name, Kaguya said with a warm smile on her face. You are new in the village. Let me take you to the leader of the village, because now are not peaceful times, so you need to make sure that you are not a spy. The girl said all the same warmly. Okay, Naruto said with the same warm smile. And so they both walk through the village, and from the blonde did not hide the way people treat Kaguya. They worship her, and smile and as if no one notices him. Can I ask a question? Naruto asked the girl who was accompanying. Of course, I have no right to refuse such a guy, Kaguya said with a smile. Naruto was not only surprised, he even blushed, because the stranger was so openly flirting with him, that he almost forgot what he wanted to ask. And tell me, if now is not a peaceful time, then why is there no guard at the entrance to the village? Asked Uzumaki. Because if the village is waiting for an attack, then the guards should almost cordon off the village, and guard every corner. Do not know. You can see such an order, Kaguya said calmly, and made Naruto frown. Then they passed in silence, and when they reached the palace at the gate stood 5 guards, and one of them approached them. Kaguya-sama, who is this with you? Asked a man of about 40, dressed in a military uniform of a samurai, who had a spear in his right hand. This, Naruto Uzumaki, he came to our village, and I decided to take him to the ruler to make sure that he is not a spy, Kaguya said. The guard didn't say anything, but just walked away, and Naruto and Kaguya walked into the palace. Lord Teji, can I come in? Kaguya said as she walked over to the inversion that was protecting them with the emperor. Yes, Kaguya, come in, a voice spoke. Upon entering, Naruto immediately threw herself into the appearance of an emperor, who looked very young, and did not pretend to be a cruel leader. Who is this Kaguya? The emperor asked, staring at Naruto. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Naruto started a conversation without letting Kaguya say a word, and got a displeased look from her, which in a second changed into the same warm smile. I am a traveler, who travels the world, and came to your village to wait a couple of days to buy food, and go on your journey. Said Naruto. Why is there blood on you? The emperor asked, pointing to Naruto's right hand, where there were traces of blood on his clothes. Naruto looked at his sleeve, and remembered that when he knocked out the last attacker without calculating the strength, blood spurted out of his mouth, and spattered on him. Naruto was about to answer as a girl who Naruto recognized, because she was in the caravan that he saved, and also gave her medicine so that her partner did not die, burst into the room. Brother, I have urgent news for you. On the run, the girl said, not paying attention to the fact that there are people in the room. Bella, you are not on time, the emperor said with a nervous smile. The girl only now realized that besides her brother, Kaguya herself was in the room. Therefore, without paying attention to the second, she immediately bowed. I beg your pardon, Kaguya-sama. You. The girl shouted, pointing her finger at Naruto. The emperor frowned where his sister, who just returned from a mission, knows this guy. Do you know each other? The emperor asked seriously, looking at the two of them. Well, how to say? Naruto started, but the girl interrupted him. You, why did you save us? The girl asked, how she surprised everyone except Naruto. Save. asked the still silent Kaguya, who became very interested in the boy. So quiet. Teji intervened in the conversation, because he understood that the conversation would drag on for a long time. Bella, calmly tell me everything. The girl stood evenly, and directed her gaze to her brother, and began the story. We were already returning to the village, as on the way people from the country of Togo attacked us. We were already on the verge of how he appeared here. Pointing at Azumaki, the girl said. He saved us, single-handedly knocking out 10 soldiers, and also gave us a medicine that helped Ren, who was seriously wounded, said the girl, telling a short story. Teji looked at Naruto and frowned. Why would a simple traveler help strangers during the war, and why exactly his people? And besides, where does he possess such skill in combat? A simple traveler will not achieve this. Mr. Emperor. Naruto turned to Teji, seeing that he was thinking diligently. I know what you are thinking now, so I helped your people without knowing who they are just because there were fewer of them than the attackers. I don't care about your war, and with whom you are at war. And as for my abilities, I am a traveler, and therefore I have to survive in this difficult time. Teji frowned. He couldn't imagine a guy his age defeating 10 warriors without a scratch. Even the great warriors of the Blade Master, who fought all their lives, and always left wounds on their bodies, that the opponents left them, could not compete with 10 armed warriors, and emerge victorious from the fight without a scratch. Silence hung in the office. Naruto, as the main culprit, did not even look at those present, but felt the gaze that was directed at him. He understood that now he had seriously ruined his reputation, and he did not want to fight, because it is not known whether these people will withstand the battles with him, because he may not be able to restrain himself. But here something happened that he did not even expect. A wave went from Kaguya that covered the blonde, and the Emperor said something he hadn't expected. Well, Naruto, congratulations to you in the village. I will order that a house be allocated to you. You are free. The Emperor said with a smile. Naruto was quite surprised, but Kaguya led him out of the room along with the Emperor's sister. End of Naruto's POV. The blonde opened his eyes and looked up at the sky. Sitting down, he asked Kurama's question. Who is this Kaguya? Asked Naruto. He could not even think that he said it out loud. And who are you? Sounding a voice from behind Naruto. When the blonde turned to the voice, he was surprised a lot. Behind him stood a Kaguya whom he didn't even feel. The two of them looked at each other, and as if nature itself felt that the conversation would not be easy. A wind blew, that warned of an impending storm. Chapter 7. Everyone has their own way, and their own sin. Part 1. The two of them stood opposite each other. Now for both of them, time itself has stopped, because every question and every answer can cause them a volume of unnecessary problems. From the two silent ones, the first to speak was Kaguya, who did not take her eyes off Naruto. Who are you? Defeat 10 warriors without getting a scratch. Besides, give just the perfect medicine that you can't do. No chakra. Kaguya spoke the last word with a touch of rudeness. I can feel the power in you that you shouldn't have, Otsutsuki said again. Naruto clenched a fist down his face with a bead of sweat. For the first time in his life, one of his conversations can change everything in the world. Beware Naruto. She has a Byakugan if you haven't noticed. Said Kurama, who was not a little worried, because he had never heard from the old man about some Kaguya. I know. This is no longer a joke. Who the hell is she? Naruto said to the fox. I think silence will not help, and simple questions too. Let's show all the cards. I tell me who I am, and you tell me who you are. Agree? Azumaki asked while looking at Kaguya, who was looking at him without that smile from yesterday. I agree, Kaguya replied. They both sat down, and Naruto began a conversation. He understood to tell that he was not worth it from the past. Therefore, he said that he always owned the chakra, and learned to use it himself. The fact that his parents died on his birthday, his teacher who taught him to fight, and how his best friend betrayed him. The conversation was long. Naruto did not know whether she believed him or not, but a tear came from her eyes. But now it was Kaguya's turn. I came from afar, my Satsuki clan. We plant chakra trees all over the universe on different planets, and wait for their fruit to grow, and then the chosen ones are sent, and they would collect the fruit, and bring it to their home planet there, and divide it between the main family, and the subsidiary branch of the family. I, being with the side, I was sent to wait for the fruit to grow, and pick it, and bring it to the planet. After all, this is a special chakra fruit. As I overheard this fruit, the one who eats it will gain incredible strength in just a couple of seconds. We have a law that whoever is from the side branch of the family should sacrifice himself as an elder. I want to change that. I will pick the fruit and change the laws of my clan, Kaguya said. The two of them looked at each other, and each had his own mind. Only each of them knew one thing, that they had not told each other everything, but that was what had to be expected. So that's it. So everyone from your clan has chakra? Asked Naruto. Yes. Nobody even remembers who was the first who gave us chakra, and how it appeared in our world in general. But our people, the chakra made monsters out of us. Everyone is so eager to gain strength that he is ready to kill his relatives, just to become stronger. And I, being weak, know that sooner or later I will be overtaken by the same fate, that someone will absorb my power and kill me, Kaguya said, looking at Azumaki. I told you everything, but just like you, not everything. Everyone should have their own secrets. You and I can say the same fate, only each of us goes our own way. Answer Kaguya. When are you going to eat the chakra fruit? Naruto asked. Soon it will ripen, and I will pick it and eat it. Naruto, you and I are really alike, and behind our smiles there is a terrible pain that no one can extinguish. We're just puppets, in the hands of the puppeteer, Satsuki said. Are you afraid of losing yourself? Naruto asked. Kaguya hadn't expected this from him. Why should she be afraid of losing herself? The fruit that you want to pluck, you are afraid that you will become like all the members of your clan. The power will destroy you, and you will no longer be able to restrain yourself, and want even more power. You are afraid of losing yourself, Naruto said, stood up, and walked over to Kaguya. Kaguya couldn't move. The blonde walked over to her, put his hand to her face, and said, Do not be afraid. I will protect you from everyone, even from your clan, Azumaki said. The two of them were caught by the night, although they did not believe each other, but their hearts and their lives were so similar that they surrendered to temptation and rushed in love. Only they did not know that their love is their first sin, which will give rise to some deaths. The sun began to come out of the sunset and illuminate the village and all the people, and the sun also illuminated the clearing on which Naruto and Kaguya were lying. They seemed to have forgotten about everything in the world gloriously now that part of the emptiness in their heart is closed by the bull. Kaguya, whose head was on the blonde's chest, hugged him gently. Now she believed he would protect her from anyone, no matter if he lied to her, who he was. She knew his life in her hands, as well as hers in his. It's been 3 days since Naruto and Kaguya slept. The leader of the country began to suspect something. Even Kaguya's abilities did not help, because no matter how Kaguya tried, Teji loved her, and love is stronger than any technique. Anyone would say so, but not Naruto, who himself imposed genjutsu on the village leader. Naruto and Kaguya were walking in the garden, where Kaguya lived, when a frightened Bella came running to them. Kaguya-sama attacked us, Bella said. Naruto and Kaguya immediately ran, where screams were heard, and when they came running, they saw the killed soldiers, and soldiers of the country of Togo. Oh, and the rumors did not lie. You are really beautiful. I am Sukazu from the country of Togo. You will come with me, said the leader of the attackers. Bella was very frightened. None of the guards were able to fight off the attack. She grabbed Kaguya's arm and started screaming. Let's run, Kaguya-sama, Bella shouted as she grabbed Kaguya's hand. But Kaguya didn't budge. She stood calmly without even showing fear. Here Naruto stood in front of Bella and Kaguya. Who else are you? Asked the leader. Naruto Uzumaki, I am your death, the blonde said, and with incredible speed, pierced the chest of one of the warriors. Then he ran to the other and repeated the same thing. All the warriors came running to screams, along with Teji, and everyone was seized with horror. Their dead warriors, the frightened Bella, the calm Kaguya, the warriors of the land of Togo, and Naruto who simply tore them to pieces. What kind of monster are you? Sukazu said with fear. I said I'm your death, Naruto repeated. He did not understand why he killed so easily, without feeling guilty in their deaths. The blonde approached the trembling enemy, and blew off his head with a spear that was lying on the ground. Drop your weapon, and raise your hands immediately, Teji shouted, and all the warriors aimed their weapons at Naruto. Naruto looked at Kaguya, and she grabbed Bella for a long time, and rushed out of the village. She knew where to go. Kaguya-sama, why did you run away? Bella screamed as she ran. They had already been running for a couple of hours, and Bella could not understand anything what was happening. Bella, do you know that Naruto and I slept? Asked Kaguya girl. Bella didn't know what to say, but she answered the truth. Yes, I know. Although my brother loves you, but I saw that you and Naruto-sama are much closer, Bella replied. You also understand why I ran away, Teji. He won't forgive Naruto for what he did, and now I need strength, Kaguya said. What are you Kaguya-sama about? Bella didn't understand. Naruto does not want death, and he will delay all the warriors, and I will finish everything in this time, said Kaguya. And so they ran to the divine tree. Bella stopped, and did not dare to approach, but Kaguya ran closer, and now she approached the tree, and here she just stopped, not believing what had happened. Naruto, Kaguya said softly, and tears began to flow from her eyes. Here soldiers of other countries ran to them, and surrounded them. Kaguya, immediately get away from the tree, said Teji, who came running along with his warriors. But Kaguya had already run up to the tree, and a fruit that she ate flew into her hands. You killed him, and now sleep forever," shouted Kaguya, in which the horns appeared, and on the forehead of the eyes. She flew up to the sky and said, "Infinite Tsukumi, shine over the world." The sky swallowed up the light, and everyone was in a dream. Kaguya came to the village, and there was a blond man with a broken heart, lying on the ground. Tears came from her eyes, but she controlled herself. "Thank you, Naruto. I will protect our children, and this world," Kaguya said. With some people, genjutsu began to subside, and everyone started their robot only. Now everyone had only one ruler, Satsuki Kaguya. At the divine tree among the roots, sat a guy with white spiky hair down to the middle of his shoulders, and when he raised his head, there was a white mask in the shape of a grinning fox on his face. "What is she like? And you slyly did everything, Naruto," Kurama said as his friend changed. "Forgive me, Kaguya, but I have my own way," Naruto said, removing the mask from his face. Chapter 8 Everyone has their own way, and their own sin. Part 2 Divine Tree. "You killed him, and now sleep forever," shouted Kaguya, in which the horns appeared, and on the forehead of the eyes. She flew up to the sky, and said, "Infinite Tsukumi, shine over the world." The sky swallowed up the light, and everyone was in a dream. Kaguya came to the village, and there was a blond man with a broken heart, lying on the ground. Tears came from her eyes, but she controlled herself. "Thank you, Naruto. I will protect our children, and this world," Kaguya said. With some people, genjutsu began to subside, and everyone started their robot only. Now everyone had only one ruler, Satsuki Kaguya. At the divine tree among the roots, sat a guy with white spiky hair down to the middle of his shoulders, and when he raised his head, there was a white mask in the shape of a grinning fox on his face. "What is she like? And you slyly did everything, Naruto," Kurama said as his friend changed. "Forgive me, Kaguya, but I have my own way," Naruto said, removing the mask from his face. The day before, night enveloped the village, and everyone went to bed. Only the guards patrolled the village. "Who is in the shade on one of the trees?" sat the blonde, who pondered all he said. Kaguya on the day of their conversation. "Kurama, tell me something. Do you know about the Satsuki clan?" asked his friend Naruto. "As far as I know, Rikudo's real name is Higuramo Satsuki. But how he is connected with this Kaguya's clan, I do not know." The old man never talked about the fact that there was a mother in him, and we all the tailed ones considered him some kind of deity. Therefore, I cannot say anything about this Kaguya. Only one thing I know. She did not lie about the divine tree. This tree is a 10-tailed demon that attacked the world when he was an old man, and he stopped him by dividing the demon into 9 parts. "So we were tailed," said Kurama. "Interesting," Naruto said. "What exactly?" Kurama asked. The gods did not remember a word about Kaguya, and they should have known her, because they told that Jubi is the god of chaos and destruction, and Kaguya says it was her clan who planted this tree. Naruto said thoughtfully. He sat on a tree, and gazed at the divine tree, that could be seen even from the village, and here he jumped from the tree, and rushed in the direction of the divine tree. "Where are you, Naruto?" asked the surprised Kurama, who was almost asleep. "I want to know if this tree is really that special," Naruto said without slowing down. He ran at full speed, and after a couple of minutes reached the tree. Having landed at the tree, He began to slowly approach him, and the closer he got, the more he realized how much power was there. Uzumaki put his hand to the tree and seemed to go into a trance. Everything turned black before his eyes. He looked on the sides, but there was nothing but darkness. But here a voice rang out from the darkness. Not one living creature, not even the Satsuki clan, is able to enter this place. A voice from the darkness spoke. Who are you? Show yourself, shouted the blonde, trying to see at least something in this darkness. You know who I am. Who are you? Chosen by the gods, and cursed by fate. I feel. Few people exist who can, deep in their hearts, hate everyone and at the same time smile at all of them. You have lost everyone you loved, you have been deprived of the most precious thing, but you still smile at them. Of all, your only friend is a part of me, said a voice from the darkness. A part of you? Are you Juba? Naruto asked as he stopped spinning around him, because he couldn't see anything anyway. I have many names. That Satsuki think I'm just the mindless creature they created. But they have no idea who I am. Juba said. Who are you? Naruto asked, hoping to find out more about this Juba and that Satsuki clan. You will know who I am. After all, when you came to me, you took what no Satsuki could do with all my parts of the Shili. Juba said. What exactly? Angrily and incomprehensibly asked Uzumaki. Come out, and look at yourself and your friend, said the voice. And after these words the blonde was thrown out of the dark place. Naruto began to look at everything around. Finally everything was visible. He took his hand away from the tree, and began to look, or nothing in it changed. But he also went into the subconscious in order to check if everything was in order with Kurama. Once in the subconscious, Naruto did not recognize the place. Instead of sewers, everything was covered with trees and flowers, and Kurama emerged from the mountain that appeared in seconds. Naruto already wanted to rush screaming what was happening here, but he seemed to have forgotten how to speak from the sight of a fox. Instead of red hair and 9 tails, in front of him stood just a giant fox of white wool, and red stripes that covered him to the tips of his tails, which now numbered as many as 10. What? The blonde could not find the words, looking at the fox that appeared in front of him. Naruto? It's you? Kurama asked. In terms of? Of course it's me. Kurama, what's wrong with you? Naruto asked. I don't know, but now I feel that I have become stronger. What about you? Kurama asked, looking at Naruto even though he didn't know himself. Or Naruto. What's wrong with me? Naruto asked, but looking in the mirror that appeared near him, he was seized by shock. In the mirror, he did not know who was looking at him, only blue eyes made it clear that it was him. After all, on his face was a white fox mask, with a grinning smile that inspired fear, and the same long thick white spiky hair down to the middle of his shoulders. Naruto took off his mask, and immediately the white hair disappeared, and his own short yellow appeared. Naruto, what did you do? Kurama asked, looking at his friend, and the mask in his hands. He took what once belonged to me, said a voice from Naruto and Kurama. When they both turned towards the voice, a humanoid statue with 10 eyes was looking at them. Well, how do you like the new power? Asked the statue. Although he didn't even move his lips, they still heard him. Are you Juabi? Kurama asked, getting ready to attack. After all, He felt a very familiar power. After all, once he was one with him. Yes, I'm Juby. Still, I did not even think that I would be able to penetrate to you to talk, because your subconscious mind is strongly protected from strangers. Juby said. What have you done to us? Naruto asked with a shout. I'm nothing. You did it all. Out of everyone in the whole world, you are the only one who looks so much like me. Juby said. I'm not like you. The blonde shouted. His subconsciousness changed from his hatred, and now everyone was surrounded by lava, but they were all in the air. Naruto was surprised how in just a second the lava appeared here, and most importantly, they were in the subconscious, but the heat of the lava was like real. Kurama, being quite surprised by one tail, touched the flowing lava waterfall that burned him. What? Couldn't understand the fox bouncing off the lava waterfall. He did not expect that in the place that belongs to Naruto, and something unreal would be able to him, just a change in the situation in the subconscious to cause harm. Surprised? It is your strength that was once mine. Juby said. What are you talking about? Asked Naruto, who calmed down in a second, changed place to a clearing with trees and flowers. You learn fast. Juby said. You being neither alive nor dead, neither god nor demon, and not even a man. You are just the energy that surrounds the world. You are a clot of this energy. Until you took away part of my power, you were like a small grain of sand in the universe, and now you are like a separate planet that stands at the beginning of its birth. Now your soul, your body, so to speak, is trying to connect with my strength and yours, which has died. The power that I own is the power of nature, and nature feels everything, so now all my strength draws everything from your heart, all the hatred, and all the kindness, trying to find a balance. Juby said. What the hell are you talking about? I'm alive. The gods brought me back to life, although in the past, Naruto said, realizing that now it is better not to be angry. After all, some of his words are true, because he could never change the subconscious, and now, as if any anger or kindness will process this subconsciousness into a flourishing country, or oceans of lava. Have you ever wondered how they did it? You died, and the body does not ascend to heaven, only the soul. Your body is now rotting under the ground there in that time, and here you are just a soul, though not a simple one, especially now. Juby said. Are you saying that Naruto is a soul? If this is true, then he is like we are tailed. But here it doesn't work. We tailed people do not need to eat, or drink, or empty ourselves. And Naruto does all this. If he was not alive, then he would not have experienced all this, said Kurama, who decided to break Juby off his desire to break Naruto so that he would believe in his words. I don't know much about people, but everything about the soul. And I feel everything well. But I can say that this desire for food, and everything else is simply produced by instinct. His soul was looking for a replacement for the natural energy that he did not absorb in order to maintain his camp. But now everything has changed. Now, I can tell I have nothing to fear. Juby said. Afraid? Naruto asked in surprise. So, after all, Satsuki take away my power, turning it into my own, and I completely die, and disappear forever, without the right to rebirth. But now you are the one who will not let them do it. Juby said. They don't have to do this. I'll kill you myself. Naruto said. No, you won't. I have already taken root all over the planet, and now I support her life. You are the light, and the darkness. If I die, you die too. And if you die, the whole system of the world will be destroyed, because I saw what kind of world in the future. Imagine that all this will disappear, even you. What will happen if there is no peace that you know? It could happen that Shinobi will never exist. Or the whole world, this whole planet Satsuki, will destroy it, turn it into its power for the sake of its prosperity. Think it over well, Naruto Uzumaki. But now a new name will suit you. See you, White Fox. Jubi said, dissolving into thin air. For a couple of minutes, Naruto and Kurama did not say a word. They pondered what had just happened, and who they were now. You think he told the truth? Naruto spoke first as he examined the mask he held in his hands. The whole conversation, I followed him closely. He used telepathic techniques to talk to us, and I checked everything. There was not a drop of lies in any of his words. Only one thing bothered me, Kurama said. What exactly? Naruto asked, turning to his friend. He told everything about you, who you are now. Who am I now? Why have I changed so much? Why do I have 10 tails? Who am I now? The fox asked himself. Maybe he doesn't know who you are now. But now, Kurama, we have a lot of work to do. And the most important thing, how can we destroy Jubi without destroying the world? Naruto said, leaving his subconscious, and not taking his eyes off the tree, saying, Our war begins. Naruto said, making it clear that he will destroy Jubi. Chapter 9. Everyone has their own way, and their own sin. Part 3. Keeping your distance. Katen Jetfire, a young warrior of about 20, with black short hair, who was dressed in black trousers and a white t-shirt, spoke. Now he was covered in scratches, and not a little exhausted. Who the hell are you? Asked the guy, referring to his opponent, who was opposite him, and who had already dodged his attack not for the first time. Well, what have you forgotten? I was the first to ask who you are, and now you are asking me so impudently, said the stranger, who was amused by the situation. I am Redoute Satsuki, the grandson of Indra Satsuki himself, who was the son of Higuramoto Satsuki himself. Proudly introduced the boy. And now you call yourself a freak in a mask, said Redoute. The feeling of fear in front of this adversary never left him. At first, when he met him, he laughed strongly, because his opponent was dressed in black trousers, with many pockets on top of which there was a white jacket, and a white cloak. But as soon as he looked at his face, his whole body shook, because on his face there was a white mask of a grinning fox, and his white thick spiky hair down to the middle of his shoulders gave him the look of a monster. Young Satsuki prepared for the attack, as here he was simply knocked out in a second. His opponent was behind him and, striking a boa in the neck, knocked out the guy. White Fox, that's my name. The opponent of the young Satsuki introduced himself. Yes, they are weaker than you could imagine. A voice sounded from the forest. Naruto turned towards the sound, and was quite angry at the new acquaintance, who had appeared. And a white fox came out of the forest with red stripes all over its body and 10 tails. Kurama, what the hell did you bring this guy to me? Naruto asked angrily. He came for me himself. I was just having lunch, and then he appeared. Well, think for yourself what I had to do. If I attacked him, then many would have felt me, and more opponents would have rushed in, and I don't know I could have overcome them all without a full form. He liked to piss off his only friend. Kurama, you know, I shouldn't meet the descendants of Higoromo and Homura. After all, they were my sons. Naruto said. Yes, I know. It's just that we have been walking around the world for 200 years, and watching the work of your son Higoromo, Kurama said to his friend, who turned around and headed into the forest. Hey, why are you leaving him here? The foxes asked with a cry. You brought him, so figure it out yourself, Naruto said, although the mask was not visible, but he was smiling. Don't mock me. I will attach you with one tail, in my full form. Started shouting to Zaid Kurama after catching up with Naruto. Well, you'll grow up first, otherwise you'll inadvertently shove cabbage into the menagerie, Naruto said without ceasing to tease his friend, as if Kurama didn't try, but he could not go out in full form with Naruto. Well, another couple of years. If it weren't for the damn Jubi, I would have been able to go free a long time ago, Kurama said, shrinking in shape and jumping onto Naruto's shoulder. Naruto looked at Kurama, who was now no bigger than a squirrel sitting quietly on his shoulders. Uzumaki smiled slightly at himself. He began to remember how everything changed when Jubi stepped onto the ground and began to wreak havoc and devastation. After all, that day, he still cannot forgive himself for what he did to the world. Pav Naruto. Now Naruto was sitting in a tree in the shade, and watching the Kageyave and his children. 20 years, it every day for them, and watched as the same species, as the Kaguya he rules the world as it brings Jubi victim. Whatever Kaguya, she is not able to withstand the power of Jubi. Kurama spoke into Naruto's subconscious. You're right, Naruto said as his sons took the direction of the forest. Naruto followed his sons, who were helping people from the village, as here Higoromo and Homura noticed people who were following Kaguya's orders to donate to Jubi. Naruto clenched his fist. He already wanted to intervene more than once and stop it all, but every time he was stopped by the fact that with his actions he could destroy the future. He has already resigned himself to the fact that he only needs to watch. He had no opportunity to talk to his children, or to Kaguya. Traveling the world, he only bumped into people who were under the influence of Tsukiyami. 2 days had passed, and Naruto was still watching his sons. When he put on the mask, he didn't need to eat or drink, his body no longer needed it. Today Uzumaki thought that for him this day would be the same as the others. But here Higoromo and Homura went into the trees. Naruto was worried because he had no idea what Jubi could do to them, and how what he saw would affect them. What the hell were they drawn to there? Naruto asked himself angrily. He just wanted to come up and take them out of there, then farther from the tree, but Kurama stopped him. Naruto, don't interfere. This is the most difficult period in Hagoromo's life. If my memory does not fail me, then soon Jubi should break free, and then the whole story of the appearance of all shinobi will begin, Kurama said. Naruto remained silent without saying anything. How then his sons came out of the tunnel in which there were people under genjutsu? Being at medium distances from them, Naruto heard that they decided to find out everything in Kaguya, but Uzumaki looked at Higoromo, and he could not believe what he saw. Sharingan, said a lot of surprised Naruto. The two Tsutsuki parted ways, and Naruto decided to follow Higuramo without thinking of sending a clone to watch Homura. And so, following Higuramo, Uzumaki was surprised more than once today, because his son was blocked by a frog, and not an easy one. But this is the same frog that told the prophecy to me, and to the perverted hermit, said the blonde, looking as the frog took his son with him, and they disappeared in white smoke. Looks like they're on Mount Miyabuku now. What will you do? Kurama asked. It looks like it's time to meet your son, Uzumaki said seriously, and at the same time hesitantly. Mount Miyabuku. And you quickly learned to feel natural energy, Gamamaru said, looking at Higuramo, who was sitting by the toad oil waterfall. The frog gazed intently at Higuramo, who had reached that level in just a couple of hours, and here he abruptly opened his eyes, and said, "Show yourself. I know you're here," Satsuki said, standing up. Gamamaru was very surprised at who Higuramo felt, because no one can get here, but as soon as he stopped following the Satsuki's energy, he himself felt the stranger, and he was shocked by the power of the one who was following them. "What was expected of you, Higuramo?" said a voice from the shadow of the trees. "You were able to subdue the natural energy for a couple of hours. This is a great achievement." Watching them, opposite them stood a guy in a mask of a grinning fox, with white thick spiky hair down to the middle of his shoulders, dressed in black trousers, a white t-shirt, and a white cloak. Opposite the two of them stood, as they thought, a monster in human likeness, because thanks to natural energy, they felt his strength. Higuramo even sweated, because he did not feel such strength even from his mother. "Who are you?" asked